Welcome back to Excel, a mental evolution podcast, and I'm your host, Dr. Seth Rose. And today is episode 44, where we are talking about some memory enhancement strategies. Specifically, today we're going to be talking about how to enhance your memory recall using what's called the Method of Loci, or Loci, whatever floats your boat. Method of Loci. And in this episode, we're going to dive into an ancient yet powerful technique. Sometimes people call it the memory palace. So the origins of the memory palace date back to ancient Greece, where this technique has been said to be one of the earliest forms of memory discovered by the poet Simonides of Kos, is how you pronounce his name. We're going to call him Simon. Simonides is kind of weird. Now, legend has it that Simon was pretty popular and had a lot of friends, and he was at a grand banquet hall performing, and he received a message to step outside. When he stepped outside to meet with a couple people that wanted to meet with him, the roof on the hall that he was performing in collapsed, and it tragically killed everybody that was inside. And the bodies were so disfigured that no one could really identify them except for good old Simon. And he realized that he could recall where each guest had been sitting using mental visualization of the layout of the banquet hall. And this event led him to discover that our minds are really good at remembering locations. So all the people that had unfortunately passed away were located in the hall in a certain location. And he had kind of rehearsed mentally using some visualization techniques to recall the layout and was able to help identify all those bodies that were lost. So the method of loci leverages the ability to associate information with specific places within a familiar environment, right? So your memory palace is something that we already have in our memory storage. And what we're essentially doing is leveraging that place to then associate new information with. So this can help a lot with like learning new things in school, if you're taking a course, or if you're needing to memorize something, plays, etc. And essentially what you're doing is you're taking an image of a house or a running route or a commute or any space that you know really, really well, and you're dividing it into several sublocations. So imagine your childhood home. Everybody should have a pretty detailed recollection of that childhood home. And then you're going to divide it into the different rooms. And then when you go to put your new information into that house, you're placing that information in different rooms. Now, this is just an overview, but more specific examples could be separating by topic and then placing topics of information into specific rooms or themes or chapters. As you can see, you can go really deep in these rabbit holes. But generally speaking, you're using that house, placing the new information with it. The brain associates that new information with something that you're familiar with. And then later on, when you go to recall that information, you can imagine yourself going through this house and then picking that new information up that you've placed in those places that you're already familiar with. So let's talk about some best practices to get the most out of this technique as you start. Number one, start small. Begin with a space that you know really, really well, like your home or your childhood home, and choose a limited number of locations at first. Maybe it's like 3 to 5 to place your information. As you get more comfortable, you can expand to larger and more complex environments. You can instead of just in your kitchen, you can start separating it out by appliances in your kitchen, and you get the point. Number two, be vivid and unique. The more vivid and unique and striking or unusual that the images that you create, the better. So For example, if you're trying to remember a grocery list to buy eggs, you're going to imagine a giant golden egg sitting on your couch. So the more outlandish the image, the easier it's going to be to recall later on. Number 3, make sure that you stick to a logical order. So when you place information into your memory palace, follow a logical route. So going through the house, you're starting at your front door, moving through the living room, going to the kitchen, and so on. That natural flow is going to help you retrieve the information in the correct order. Number 4, make sure that you're reviewing regularly. So repetition is the easiest way for learning and memory. So take a few minutes every day to mentally walk through your palace and refresh the images that you've placed in their specific rooms. That's going to help solidify and consolidate memory into long-term memory. Number 5 is going to be customizing. So make sure that you have different palaces for different types of information, and you can have one for personal information, another for work-related information, another for school. And so you can have different palaces for different types of things. And then the last thing is making sure that you're resting and you're sleeping. So memory at the end of the day gets consolidated during sleep. So if you're not sleeping well, then it's going to be really hard for that memory to be actually solidified. These techniques help with that. They are mnemonics that help tie things together, but sleep is going to be the thing that helps transfer all that into long term. So whenever it's a time to recall information, simply mentally walk through your memory palace from the good old Simon of Caus. And as you move from one location to another, try to vividly imagine where you've placed those things to help trigger the memories that you're seeking. And do note that the effectiveness of the memory of loci, it's been well documented, and it's a technique that's been adapted for nearly any type of information with minimal interference. So give it a try and see how you do with this mnemonic called the memory palace or method of loci. And yeah, we'll catch you on the next one.